This week on Men Don't Talk.
With not talking and not releasing that emotion, when it did come out, it came out big time. So I walked along the canal, Bellwall Bridge dropped into my head because that's always a popular jumping place.
But I have no doubt there's at least one guy listening to this who's going through some kind of divorce, some kind of messy thing with an ex-partner, some kind of thing with access to the kids. And the advice you gave me, which I really kind of took on board, was try and pull yourself out of the short term and think medium, think long term with it. As hard as it can be to not see those kids that you used to see every day.
Be real. Don't be somebody you're not. But I think when you're younger, that's now impossible. You always want to be somebody you're not. You always aspire to either somebody like your mentor at work or somebody who can, rip it up on the dance floor in a nightclub or something like that,
Right, welcome to another episode of Men Don't Talk. We've got a guest in today. It's myself, it's Dalu, and our special guest tonight is a friend of mine. It's David Antonelli. Have I pronounced that surname right there, David?
You have indeed, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We don't really talk surnames, do we? But
and you've got so many.
yeah, it is a pseudonym, my one, but. Particularly as we were talking about porn addiction in the last episode, then. Yeah, so David, we've known each other for what, about 4 years or so, maybe?
Yeah. Friends through our sons.
Yeah, and we normally take the piss out of each other relentlessly, and we'd never maybe compliment each other, but just so you're aware, I was kind of describing you to Dalu and our kind of relationship. I said you're a bit older than myself. You've been through some of the struggles that I've been through in life, and I consider you've given me a bit of mentorship along the way as well. But we'd never say that one to one because you go, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
I don't remember doing that at all.
Yeah. So this episode, I wanted to talk on something. There was a particular night, actually. This sounds weird, like me and you talking like this in like a. There was a particular night, though, I don't know if you remember it, where there was a few of us in the pub, and there was a particular individual in the pub. You know it already, don't you?
No, I don't know where you're going with this.
There was a particular individual in the pub as well on this social night, who was maybe what I would describe as dick swinging. He's like, "Oh, I'm great at that. I'm great at this." Blah 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 blah. And I think we were both a bit like, well, I'll just go home in a minute, to be honest. Like, this is not really for me. And a few of them kind of went home. And I don't think we don't dislike. I don't think, or I don't dislike those individuals at all. It was just the mood of the conversation was a bit. And everyone had kind of left, and we were like, right, should we go? And we stood up, and I think we both went, should we just stay for one beer? We were like, yeah. And then we had about 3 or 4 beers of like proper, honest, open conversation. And I always kind of remember that night. And I think, if I'm right, during that night or one of the subsequent conversations we had, you found out about the podcast, and you disclosed to me, I think, that you'd had some suicidal thoughts at one stage in your life. And I don't think we ever really talked about it.
Yeah. No, well, we did. Yeah, I think maybe you're just a bit too pissed. But yeah, no,
maybe, yeah.
I've touched on it a couple of times really in different conversations. But yeah, no, I think when something happens to you in life, when you're a little bit older, I think when you're younger, you take things in your stride a bit more. I think when you're older, it kind of knock you a little bit harder. I mean, we've all probably got parents or grandparents where they've had a fall and suddenly they've changed. They've aged quickly, or they go within themselves. And I think probably it happens to all our age groups. It's less noticeable when you're younger.
I mean, I'd never considered that. It's interesting. I've never considered that.
But so I had a sporting injury. So I've always been very sporty, very competitive, and it's in the genes. So I had a sort of quite a serious injury to my knee, and it completely stopped my my life of doing anything that I would, call a normal, like not being able to go to work for quite a while, not being able to do sport, and it sort of progressed and progressed. And whilsoever it was sort of you going through the recovery and rehabilitation stage, it was always a case of, right, you'll get through this, and I'll be back playing hockey, or I'll be back, doing a run, or back to work, or something like that. And then as time went on, it was becoming more and more obvious that wasn't going to be happening or to the level that I wanted it to. Went back for a few more ops, and so, and it was that realization of, shit, this is like changing the course of my life. So and it's tricky because you sort of, it's a gradual process. It's not like, so if you were in a motorcycle accident or something like that, you'd be bang bang straight out. But it wasn't. It was always a case of physios and surgeons were saying, no, you'll be back, you'll be back, you'll be back. And then even the realization on their faces of saying, why is it still twice the size of the other one? And we are talking knees, obviously. And so, it was, for me, it was like, shit, I'm really not going to be able to do anything that I get love of. So, I mean, I, like a lot of people, work hard, play hard. You take the play away, and suddenly it's just work hard. And I think that sort of set me off in a really sort of negative spin. And because I couldn't sort of, if you take the competitiveness away from a competitor, it really affected my mental state.
So what kind of level hockey were you playing at the time, David?
Well, we started a club in Lim, and I was still playing first team there. But I'd sort of just got into basically England selection for my age group at masters level. So I'd sort of come back up playing with people my own age, which was quite refreshing, rather than like 20-year-olds and having them running around your legs. So and trying to take them down at the knees. But so it was good.
Was that your kind of first experience of kind of depression or low mood, or kind of feeling that way, those kind of thoughts, being in that negative space?
Yeah, I think so. I've always been quite a positive, person-centered kind of outlook on life, and I mean, we all have ups and downs, but nothing to the level of, I could quite easily just, call it a day now. Which, when I reflect back now, quite a selfish thing to do. But that's the mental state you're in.
And I think, I do remember the conversation now. I don't really remember bits of the conversation, but there were a lot of emotions I think you described there. Some of them being kind of anger and stuff as well, because you do feel you were injured kind of deliberately and stuff as well. Can you go what actually happened with the injury?
Yeah, well, the guy that caused it was premeditated in what he did. So, but there's no way he would have predicted what the outcome of what he did. Basically he intentionally tripped me up, but there was no way that he would have imagined that I would have done the damage to my knee that I would have done from just doing that. But he's an ex-Marine, he plants his leg, he's not going anywhere. And I think there was a lot of sort of, I need to go back and redress the balance. I need to go back and see him. I need to go on a dark night.
You remember me?
Yeah.
Go on, go into that then. How far did that go then? What were the emotions then? Then literally was revenge. Like, how long did that revenge thing last?
A long time. So
really?
Probably around about sort of 4 months. And then it was a kind of like, well, do you know what? You start going through the scenario. Am I actually going to go there? What am I going to say? What will I actually do? What could be the repercussions of doing that? And then you start thinking, well, actually reality kicks in, and it's probably not the best idea you've had, but it felt good at the time. But it was about a year later, he came up to play. So it was a team in Wales, and they came up to play Lim, and my best friend played in the team, and he turned round to him and said, "Oh, is your mate still in a wheelchair? Is he? Because that's where he should be," sort of thing. And it was pre-match banter, and you know, best friend. To be fair, he lost it, and he went off at him, and you know, it wasn't great. And that's the bit about I just didn't understand his mindset. I mean, I've been around Marines because I'm ex-serviceman myself, and they are good guys. You know, they understand. They're very respectful. You know, it's drummed into them, and so it didn't seem to sort of marry that side of him. But I'd gone past that stage at that point, and I was in a different place.
Mm.
But,
And what was your situation at the time? Obviously, because many listeners will go through kind of that depression, that suicidal thought pattern, and some have families, some are single, just living on their own. What was your scenario at the time? What was your situation with?
I think we spoke about it, didn't we, Andy? So yeah, I mean, there was a couple of times I would just break down in tears. And the thing is, my background sort of very much about the male. You know, you don't show emotions. You don't show emotions. You don't show weakness. You know, you keep that behind closed doors, which is, you know, kind of what the podcast was about, and why we sort of spoke so honestly with each other. And so, with not talking and not releasing that emotion, when it did come out, it came out big time. So I walked along the canal. We have a canal quite close, which is not always probably fortuitous. And Bellwall Bridge dropped into my head because that's always a popular jumping place. But it never really got further than just a walk. Because I think when you have a walk and you can clear your thoughts, you put other priorities and other things in place. But I think the big thing was you just didn't talk to anyone. I mean, obviously I'm married at that time, and yeah, everything's fine. It's all good. You know, yeah, I'm feeling a bit low, but it's all right. But inwardly, you're dying. You just don't know how to release that emotion. I've never been one for counselling. Never really sort of bonded with that sort of side of it. And so, yeah, it was very much a case of not really having anyone to talk to about it.
So where did you learn that emotions shouldn't be shown? Is that a male role model or anything like
that? Yeah. So basically, I'm Catholic family, Italian descent, and it's the old Godfather shit, isn't it? You sit around the table and you don't talk. You talk when you're invited to talk from a very young age. Seen but not heard. And I think, from my perspective, I've come out of that mold. I came out of that mold a long time ago. I'm very sort of happy in my own skin, and I've never sort of turned into a bit of an atheist as well, which helps. But but you are part of. You can shake off all you like, but you always have that background of your previous generation. It's part of your DNA. It's part of your genetics. And I've read a lot of books, and I've heard a lot of people talking, and you can shake it out. But actually, when you get to extremes behaviour, whether it's euphoria or pain, you can sometimes slip back into it without even knowing it. And it's just recognising those traits, and those traits are very much pushing people away and not engaging.
So what would you say, or what would you highlight as maybe like your coping strategies now for if adversity or challenges do face you and you feel like there might be a slight dip? Is there anything that you have in place, a structure or plan that you use to kind of bring yourself back up?
Yeah, it's called Jude, and so he's my 6-year-old.
Don't make it bad, Jude. Does he take a sad song and make it better?
Yeah. No, but it was one of those where I'm also a great believer of fate. Things happen for a reason, and there's no
Yes.
rhyme or reason.
This is bollocks. We've been through this.
No,
Go
yeah,
on,
and we can agree to disagree on this one. But I try and so one of my coping mechanisms was, well, what would happen if I hadn't had that injury? Well, okay, I'd be playing hockey every Saturday, probably every Sunday as well, because I'd be travelling up and down the country. I'd be training probably once or twice a week, and my wife had a baby. Wouldn't really have had much time with it. And it's the second time for me. My first two girls, when I had in my first marriage, they didn't see a lot of me when I was young either, because I was playing hockey at higher level then, and I was sort of first team captain at quite a high profile club. So there was a lot of expectation on my shoulders to be around the club, be around players, stuff like that, travelling. I didn't want that to happen twice. There's no point going through life having these experiences if you don't learn from them. So I kind of think that actually, because it's happened, means that I spend a lot more time at weekends at home, and that's great. And I learn more from being around my 6-year-old, and it sounds really corny, I get it. But I actually learned about not giving a shit and saying what you think, and being a little bit more, carpe diem, seizing the day, and just forgetting about all the noise that comes from work, comes from media, all the negativity, and get on with life.
Yeah, I feel that.
Did I answer that question?
No, you did. I think like I deal with on a day-to-day basis. I deal with people that that go through similar things to what you've experienced, and what I've kind of found is that there's always something that's brought them back from that brink, and there's always been a focal point, whether it has been the children, whether it has just been getting back into a working environment. So it's just wanted to kind of hear your chapter and verse on it, really.
I just wonder whether that we're still in the morbid bit here, I guess, with the how you were feeling at the time after the injury and that kind of stuff. But feeling, I get it. It totally changed your life in that regard as well. And I took time for you to pick up the positives from that. And I totally understand that. But within kind of competitiveness for me, like a real fire competitiveness, there's also got to be a lot of what you may consider kind of negative energy, like ego, hasn't there? Like, we've talked about this before, like you couldn't probably be the heavyweight boxer of the world without having a massive ego and without thinking, I am the king, I've got to do this, I am. So it must be difficult to switch that off. It must have been really difficult to switch that off.
It is. I think whenever you've been good at something and successful something, and have people looking at you in that way, and then they're looking at someone hobbling around, you can't help but it have an effect. People saying to you things like, "Oh, Dave, you'll be back playing." I went, "No, actually, I won't." And he was going, and then you walk away thinking, "Oh, yeah, I know that's the line, but maybe I could." And then you start thinking, "Oh, yeah." And then there's a couple of times I did actually try and get back to it, and I just, it was destined to fail, and that didn't help either. So I've actually been. It's going to be strange because I've been asked. So I've coached quite a while before the injury and after, and I've had probably about now a 4-year break from doing anything sport related, and they've just asked me back to coach the team. And I've kind of thought, well, do you know what? Shouldn't say? And I thought, well, maybe it's time that I do go back and help again. But there was one thing that happened which was very very noticeable. And that was the Invictus Games. That was going on, and it was quite high profile at the time. And I did, because of ex-servicemen, obviously there's that connection. But you saw people there doing incredible things in sport with huge, like without limbs, blind, and that was kind of another big turning point for me, because you just looked in the mirror and thought, Jesus, I'm walking, I've got 2 arms, I can smile, I've got everything going. So, put it into context.
Yeah, big time. That must be, and it kind of alluding to the same one as Dalu there in terms of like coping mechanisms and stuff like that, but on kind of like lighter basis. you've got hobbies and interests now. Like you do a lot of cycling stuff, don't you?
Yeah. So cycling helps me, and it can get you out and into the countryside, and just avoid bridges. It's great.
So does that help you? Does that help you blow the cobwebs off? Does that keep you in a stronger mental kind of frame as well?
It's not competitive. It's not competitive in any shape or form. I suppose my competitiveness is going longer. So, but I'm quite a lazy. I need goals. So I set myself either little sportifs, or I've got one planned for next year, which is riding across Britain for prostate cancer. And so, that challenge is kind of what I'll be building up for next year. And those sort of things help me keep me focused. When there's I always think, when you talk about people who've been through similar things, is have something to aim for. And it doesn't have to be big. It can just be, small steps, whether it's sort of just going for a walk around the house or a walk around the block. Just do small steps, but make them achievable. And then, do that regularly. And you know what? If you wake up one day and you don't feel like it, don't do it. Don't put yourself under pressure. Because I think there's a lot of pressure you put yourself under, and that can build up without you knowing it. It will just cause stress.
You probably answered this question already, but we've got a regular question in terms of what we ask on Men Don't Talk, and that's kind of what advice would you give your younger self? And I think you probably mentioned a few things there, but is there anything that you would have told yourself at that age going through it, being a wiser man now?
What would I tell myself? Just start with lower expectations. I think if you have,
I agree. That's a hard one to swallow as well, isn't it? But that's adult life for me. Lower your fucking expectations, kids.
That goes out to the world, mate. Oh my god.
Sorry, mate. Go on.
No, but if you aim too high and you miss, it can mentally cripple you. So the better thing to do is just, like say, start small and let it grow. And actually, I think the other thing is let other people in. I didn't let people in, and I think, do you know what? Comfort, or the worst people you find for comfort are the people closest to you, because you know what they're going to say. And we spoke, and it's kind of reflective as well. So, Andy's been through a lot of shit that I've been through in my life. And I've been through very, very similar experiences. So I can impart that. And I think that does you good. So if you can find someone who's actually been through it, I think that would be immensely helpful. And I never really sought that out. I wouldn't even know probably how to go and find that out, to be fair.
So I want to come to that about your children from the previous marriage and that kind of thing as well. But I alluding to what Dali was asking there.
By the way, is this counselling? Is this going to get a big PayPal?
No, there's a bit there that I'm intrigued. I want to push a bit harder on, which was what would you say to a younger you? Along the lines of the accident, because you said you were coaching people and that kind of thing now as well. What would you say to someone in your situation who's had a diagnosis of you were a great player or you are a great player, they've had an injury, they may come back, they may not come back. How do you coach that? You've got 5 minutes in the room to speak to that person, to whatever you want to say to them. What do you say to someone in that situation?
Without being too cliche, sometimes when one door closes, another one opens. You might think that this is the end of a path, and it might well be. And you might have to just, be open with yourself that, this could be the end of your football career. But actually, by playing football, you've not looked at other things that you could do. So let's go and explore that. What have you always wanted to do with your life, but you've never fulfilled? What people you would like to meet? What places you would like to go and see? Take other opportunities that have been closed to you before because you've always been training, or you've always been, had other commitments. So I think that's the sort of thing that you can probably get sometimes is we can all get a little bit blinkered in life, particularly in work. And even in private life, you know, we have our friends, we have work, and we forget to really open up to people we wouldn't normally open up to. But part of that is you've got to go out and sometimes find those people as well. They're not going to come to you.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer for me. It's a great answer. I think the context bit of where you've helped me definitely, and you really have, is around the divorce and around access to the children, which I've spoken on here before, the 2 children from my previous marriage. And you give me some really nice and some really good advice on that I have kind of continually touched back to, which is, and I think that I've no doubt our listening figures are not huge, but I've no doubt there's at least one guy listening to this who's going through some kind of divorce, some kind of messy thing with an ex-partner, some kind of thing with access to the kids. And the advice you gave me, which I really kind of took on board, was try and pull yourself out of the short term and think medium, think long term with it. As hard as it can be to not see those kids that you used to see every day for a little while, and it's all gone up in the air and it's all horrible, and you know there's a lot of emotion and a lot of things going on. Thinking on a medium to long term basis is going to put you one step ahead of making yourself happy and making the kids happy.
But it's difficult because when you're
so difficult
through it, you don't know what medium and long term look like. You can only deal with short term, and the problem is the short term's hitting you straight in the face and it's smacking you around and taking you for 12 rounds, and you're feeling beaten up, and you can't see what medium long term. I mean, when I went through it, all my family were saying, "Oh, just wait, in years to come, you know, it will all be fine. They'll all grow up and understand." But I said, "Yeah, but what's now? Now is when it means most to them and you, and that's the hardest thing. That whatever anyone says to you, that's what you're left with trying to find the answer to, and there isn't an answer. That's the other thing, is everyone's in a slightly different situation, except to say that you should always just be the person you are to them. Don't be someone you're not. Don't you know, put on any airs and graces or spoil them, or just be who you are and carry on being, and be true to yourself, because that's all you can be. And kids are really sharp. They are sharp, and they'll find you out if you're not.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Yeah, there's a lot of people. Someone spoke today. My missus has been speaking to a friend of ours who's got someone in the family who's going through similar, who might possibly speak to me at some point. And it sounds like familiar chaos, and it's a thing that a lot of people go through, both men and women. But for men, it's probably a very familiar tale of access to children and the divorce situation and all that kind of thing. And yeah, it's very, very difficult to deal with. And I think to anyone listening, my advice from kind of coming out the other side of that to some degree is, yeah, I think that medium, that long term is great advice. On top of that, I would always say, look at your own mistakes and own your own mistakes, because as much as you think you're perfect in the situation and the other person's not, you're not. Your head is so far up your arse, and you're not the person probably that you should be at that kind of point in time, because you're so caught up in all the emotions, all the situation, and rightly so. It's hard to pull yourself out of that, but always look at your own faults.
You think you're acting normally, but you're acting in a period of stress. So I used to get so stressed by going to see the children, I would never be relaxed. I'd never be who I was. You know, it was a 3.5 hour drive. Sometimes I wouldn't even get there because I'd get a call to say, "Oh, you're feeling very well," and you'd turn all. And all your week was about Friday, getting in the car and going, and the stress building up. And people who knew me at the time said, "You were just a different person at the time you were going to see the kids." So actually, I wasn't being really who I was, and so I was probably super sensitive and, you know, not very relaxed, which of course is the worst thing to be around with kids, because, you know, they'll just reflect that as well. They'll mirror it, and you won't really have that, you know, precious time that you in your head you're having. For them, it's going through the motions.
But there's a story there with your children, isn't there, David? In terms of, so can we go into that briefly? Is that all right in terms of timescale? So like, what you were married and you had 2 girls. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you take us from there? What kind of like ages were they when you separated and so on?
Yeah, so they would have been 3 and 2 when we separated. So very young, very young. And my wife was from down south, so she went back home, and obviously I stayed up here, and yeah, it's tricky. Distance doesn't help. So I always try and see them every other week, but you know, there are times and things that happen in my life which I'll turn around, I would change, in a heartbeat. And one of those was I probably put myself under too much pressure. So I was trying to see them every other week, but actually I just couldn't sustain it. I don't drive long distances well. I get tired, get nodding dog syndrome, and there's been a few times that I'll probably admit it. It was like, Dad, you're asleep, and it was just too tight. And a lot of it was the stress build up going to see them, and then getting there, seeing them, staying in a hotel, coming back. I mean, I remember one time on a bank holiday, August, it was a 10-hour round trip drive to get them back to my house for Friday night, and then I slept till about midday on Saturday because I couldn't get myself out of bed, and then I was driving them back down Sunday morning, and it just was, that's the wrong type of contact. It wasn't quality contact. So I look back and think, I would have done things a whole lot differently. Plus, I think I was in a relationship there, and I was honest to say that I didn't put them first enough. I mean, I was fostering at the time, and I was doing quite a lot of good for the foster kids, and I really enjoyed that side of it. But I kind of didn't really give my children enough of my time, and I was trying to share their time with the foster children, because at the time it's a difficult one, because with foster children they've got to see themselves almost on a level playing field, and it was a difficult equation to juggle, to balance even, and I probably didn't get that right. And I've been honest with my girls, and I've had, Laura's now 22, and it's one of those, I've had conversations with her and said, there's things that I've not done, and we don't really talk about it. And I think there will be time when she'll be more open to having an honest conversation, maybe when she's married or with kids. But yeah, I'm here for her, and we talk regularly, a lot more regularly than we ever used to. And that's a positive of COVID. But yeah, no, it's good, and we go on holidays together. So we've definitely turned a corner, but it took a long time. And I haven't started a big chunk, but there we go.
You just mentioned the C word there.
I know.
How have you been coping with COVID and lockdown and all that?
Well, probably it's just about everybody else. I'm not in. You kind of in one of two camps. You lock yourself away and don't see anyone, or you take it on the chin and life goes on semi-normally. And I'm kind of in that camp. So I've always been at work, although most of the employees have been furloughed. So we've just been doing more of the jobs. It's been quite stressful, been very stressful. It's, as an employer, it's difficult. We've had to let people go, and that's never a nice thing to do. We have a family, we're a family business, and we have that type of ethos. So these people are part of our family, and it's been tough decisions, and there may be some more to come yet.
What kind of business do you run?
It's a food manufacturing business.
Right. Okay. So have you found it dramatically affected, or have you found like an increase in profits because people are obviously eating?
Yeah, I'm just smiling. So, so COVID started just before Easter, and we manufacture ice cream cones and ingredients for ice cream. So, do you remember the weather we had at the start of COVID? Yeah, it was blistering, and it would probably have been our best start of the season in history. We were absolutely maxed out in the warehouse, ready for it to flood out, and then it hit. So if you imagine over winter, it's quite a barren period. We're producing a lot for the season, but there's not a huge amount of sales. But you've got all the exhibitions, all your marketing costs, brochures, everything else like that, all your social media development and everything. That's all paid for, and then of course when you start to make money, it stops. And so when it's opened, but it's opened very gradually. And I don't know what effect wearing masks in the shops, but I imagine if you weren't that bothered about shopping, having to put a mask on might just tip you over to no, I won't bother. So we don't quite know. It's coming back. There's no doubt about it. But of course, then the furlough scheme stops in October, which is exactly when we'll need the help again to get us through the winter. So not great, I'll be honest. But it's again positives and negatives. It's the same for everyone. It's not local. It's not regional. It's global. So we're going to experience what everybody else is experiencing, and you've got to be nimble as a business nowadays. You've got to be able to adapt. You've got to be able to change, and you've got to get lean sometimes. And now's the time where we've just got to get lean and go through the winter months.
And it sounds like, actually, from what you were saying the other night, it's quite a hit your business is taking, though, isn't it? And I'm not talking about figures, but it's quite a substantial hit from what you were kind of approximating to me the other day. And I'm just wondering there about that thing with the hockey, with the Italian kind of family influence of the protector, the dad, the big guy, the captain of the club, all that kind of thing that comes with that. The having to lay people off and being in that horrible situation of being, the protector of the family at work and that kind of thing as well. How do you cope with those kind of negative feelings and stuff? You must have felt some crap within coping with those kind of things as well, because it must be nice to employ people and give people opportunities. It must be horrible to have to, to take that away.
Yeah, you become a bit immune to it. So I've been doing it over 20 years. You employ, there's two sides to the business. There's the production facility, and then there's the sort of the headquarters warehouse side of it, and that's fairly stable with people, and we have a very good team there. The production is always a little bit up and down. It's always been up and down and seasonal, but I would say for the last 4 years we've been double shift all year round. So again, we've been very stable with people, but there'll always be a natural movement of people. And I think, generally speaking, the job market now is about as fluid as ever been. And a lot of that's been driven by people like Indeed, where you can literally just jump from job to job for an extra 10p an hour or something like that. I've been trying to take on people with some learning difficulties recently. So we've taken on two kids with Asperger's, one in the warehouse and one in production. The one in production's still there and doing very well. The one in the warehouse, unfortunately, we were carrying too many people at the time, and he had to let him go. But we're still in contact, and I'll get him back as and when we can. But that's kind of where I am again in my age, is that. I suppose I've missed out a little thing here. So my younger daughter, David, she's got Asperger's, quite severe Asperger's. So I'm sort of used to dealing with that type of condition. So from my point of view, I kind of, whereas in my younger years it was about productivity, it was about output. Now it's about, well, do you know what? If I can give one person a chance, and have somebody mentor them, then that's a good feeling. We have a good business model now where we can carry people in the warehouse, and we can carry them production a little bit, and so it allows us to do that.
So you also dodged a bullet to some degree, did you? Because I imagine you did have a restaurant at one stage, didn't you, in Lim? And I imagine having a restaurant would have pushed it even further during COVID. That must have been, for people who've got restaurants, that must be a nightmare.
I'll tell you what. I mean, you know me, I am not customer facing. And if you look at Facebook and how crippling it was. Yeah, no, I don't enjoy that side at all. So yeah, we had a restaurant, but that was mainly because we didn't have the site that we're in at the moment to teach people how to make ice cream. So it was closed on a Monday and Tuesday to get customers in, to allow us to do sort of development work for recipes and for new flavors work and things like that. So, but then the actual day-to-day of the running was, yeah, it was a ball breaker. So you'd finish work and then you'd be in the restaurant, either helping out, or the Wi-Fi would go down, or somebody wouldn't turn in, or the chef who was from Naples was throwing a hissy fit. So lemon and chicken pizza. Yeah. I don't know where that from. Anyway, so yeah, that wasn't fun. But I feel for those guys for sure during COVID. But we've seen it from our customers' point of view. The entrepreneurial sort of instinct of people comes through at these times, and straight away we had 3 or 4 customers who went, right, takeaway, what can you do? What have you got? And they went from there to there takeaway. They were so busy, and they said, we've never even explored this market before, and it's just bonkers. There's a guy that does desserts in the Liverpool area, so he delivers from 10 o'clock at night to 4 in the morning. Desserts, ice cream, chocolate cake, whatever you want.
Wow.
And he turned over from 500 in his first month sales, customers, and he's now up to about 4,500 customers.
Wow.
He's going around, and he's just developed a market of people who are working night shifts, working late, but have a sweet tooth.
Wow.
He's just doing a small delivery type operation.
I'd go for that. That sounds really good. There is so much adaptation kind of going on. I would say, but from a personal side of things, like yesterday, it was my birthday over the weekend, and my missus got me a quick lunchtime break. So I had a lunchtime break yesterday, and I was in Liverpool Docks doing stand-up paddleboarding, just as a little treat. And she drove, and I was on the Wi-Fi hotspot, so I was working all the way on the way in case anyone's listening from work. Yeah. But it was just brilliant. I'd been feeling quite stale during the COVID times. I don't know about you, Dalu. I wanted to ask how you were coping with it, because I found it quite difficult, but I do find it quite exciting thinking about those kind of things you mentioned, David, about the changes. Then we've got to get ourselves into the habit of, we've got to get ourselves away from, like, this is the new norm, I think, away from everything's going to go back to how it was, because I just don't, it's not going to, it's going to be different. And one of the, what, sorry?
How has it affected you yourself?
I'll be honest, over the last few weeks, I felt quite stale, to the point where I like our house. I mean, it's not totally finished. You always take the piss that I've not finished everything, but it's a nice enough place. Do you know what I mean? We've done it. We're 90% of the way there, and to the point where, when you just hate your house a little bit, you're like, I've been in here too many hours today. Yeah. I'm working in here all the time. The idea of sitting in here and watching telly tonight and then going straight to bed and just getting up and staying in here again, and it's first world problems, isn't it? But
mate, that's what I was like the other day. I was like, oh, this bloody conservatory. I was like, do you know what? We never had a conservatory before. Like, this is really first world problems. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's so hot and stuffy in here whilst I'm trying to work from home on my brand new laptop from work. Like, shut up.
Yeah. Well, we've got a big tent that we bought last year. We've not even got it out of the bloody wrapper yet. It's like just sitting there, and it's crazy because you can actually just go and put it up in a field and just have a different space just for one night, and I think that would make quite a big difference. But it's just, do you know what? Oh, tent.
Yeah. I was camping at the weekend, actually. I was camping at the weekend in the old van here in Aberfferon in North Wales, and it made a huge difference. So it did make a huge difference, as you're alluding to there. Like, it's coming back to the house was nice, but being in it all the time wasn't great. And one thing for me, going back to something you were talking about, David, as well, about walking, about that. And today I got a bit stale again, and I was just like, I was probably working too much, and just before 12, I just went, I'm going for a walk. I'm shutting that laptop lid, I don't even need anything from the shop. I'm just going to go to the shop and get myself a chocolate bar or something. And every step, I could feel my brain just going, and I could feel myself deep breathing and taking a breath and just going, fucking hell, what's that about? And you just get your head into this weird space, don't you? And imagine for some people, it's horrendous. People that have been in flats, people that live on their own that have been in flats that can't even get any fresh air at some points. It must have been horrendous for those people, as well as the people suffering from the conditions. You know, it's a big thing, isn't it?
Imagine those in like the council estate, high rise, like multi-block, just like 4 or 8 quads in one area, and that's it on those hot days in summer as well, or the hot days that we've experienced, and you can go out, but you can't go out. You know, yeah.
Yeah,
I just think there's going to be a very interesting second wave of stats that are going to come out of, do you know what, mental health, relationship breakups, you know, loads of stuff. I mean, my daughter's broken up with a boyfriend. My niece has broken up with a boyfriend just because they're just not talking. The communication is breaking down, and you know. And I know we rely on these things, and certainly the younger generation do even more by communicating, but it's not really communicating. And I think in some ways, you know, everyone's zoomed out.
definitely, yeah.
There are so many pub quizzes you can be a part of before that gets a bit stale. And I just wonder, you know, if there is another second wave, is that just going to break people? Some people are going to think, oh, do you know what, I'm not going to go through it again. And do something different or move away, or I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Bermuda. Everyone's going to Bermuda.
Is that right?
Have you read about that? The Bermuda thing. They're selling themselves as a come and work from here. We've got excellent internet and excellent facilities. Your job's work from home anyway. So they're setting themselves up as like a remote working facility. So you can go and live in Bermuda. It just sounds that sounds great. So if I didn't have kids, if I didn't have 4 kids, I'd be there tomorrow.
I've taken to listen to music. So the music I was listening to when I was like teenage and like in my early 20s, I'm going backwards in my music, and it's really, do you know what? It's really, really good to hear it again. So I mean, a lot, because there's no new music really being made. It's like on TV. There's nothing new on TV, and I'm actually quite enjoying going back and listening to like Talking Heads and REM and all the old stuff.
Finger Boys, all the stuff.
Finger Boys.
Yeah, definitely. I just can I go back to one point on there? It just popped into my brain there about the thing with your daughters, and you've got Jude at the minute as well, and that kind of thing. So I would, I've seen you with Jude particularly, and you are a dad that's heavily involved, and similar to myself, I think it's a huge part of your life. You've kind of alluded to it, but what would you say to people who were in that situation? That to me, that felt like a doomsday situation at one stage where the kids are kind of taken away. There's a different geographical location. How did you kind of cope with that? Did you ever consider going to court and stopping a going? And how did you even cope with that situation?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I made a promise, which if I turn the clock back would be something else I would have changed. So I made a promise to the girls that because my parents divorced when I was 16, 17, and I was very much a bit of a tug of war, piece of rope between the two of them. So who was going to have custody of me, how much time I was going to be spending each house. And at that age, you're well screwed into it all, and you can see, and it wasn't particularly great. I think that was one of the reasons why I joined the army. It was like the first opportunity to get the hell out of there. So, and I didn't want to put my kids through that. So I said, look, your decision is whatever you want to do. And things deteriorated in contact, and it became very estranged. My frequency dropped to once a month because of work, it sounds really poor, but that's just where I was, and that's where the business was, unfortunately. And then there were excuses of why they couldn't see me, and then eventually I got a phone call to say, look, the girls don't want to see you anymore. and that was tough to hear. That was tough to hear.
What age? Sorry, David. What age was that? The 2 and 3 when they left?
Probably around about 6 and 5. 6 and 5, yeah. So, but I wasn't convinced that I was hearing it from their own mouths, just to say. So I said, right, okay, well, and I kind of left it for a bit, probably too long, but then I sort of engaged courts and said, look, you know, I want my contact. And Kafkas got involved, but because of Sophie and her needs, she was never allowed to be interviewed on her own. She always had her mum there, so that was quite orchestrated. And Laura was just, you know, doing. To be fair to her, she was looking after herself. You know, that's where her protection was at home. That's where she wanted to be. She wasn't sure what was on the other side with me, and so, you know, I totally understand why she did and said what she said. So yeah, I went down to zero contact for quite a number of years, and yeah, that was quite tough to start with, very tough to start with, but it became the norm. But it was always there. It was always there at Christmases, obviously, and birthdays. We'd send cards and send gifts. And always,
hang on, sorry.
But that's when always people turn around and go, yeah, but when they grow up, but it's not. It's there. It's in your face.
You didn't even see him on the Christmases and birthdays then that you were sending the cards. You were just you couldn't have any contact.
Well, no, I could have contacts, but it would have to be prearranged and it had to be done. So yeah, I saw them sort of like twice a year, but it was very sterile. It wasn't proper contact, as I would say.
Yeah.
And then actually, it was my sister who was great through this period. She kept in contact with them all the time. She lived in London, so it was a little bit easier because that's where they weren't a million miles from there. And she was a bit of a godsend through the whole period of that, and she was the sort of common link. She was very good. She didn't sort of play any off, you know, or play one side or the other. Just kept it quite real. And so yeah, when sort of they turned the corner and wanted to see me again, that was great. But it was one of those. It was always a case of, look, I'm here for when you need me, when you want me. I'll always be there for you. But it's got to come from you. And as they grow up, obviously they understand a bit more.
And what age was that? Can you remember that moment? How did you hear that they wanted to see you again?
It just became gradual. It was a case of well, sort of, we'll see you in the summer, and then I think after about a year, because I would just see them down there and stay in a hotel. And then they would stay in the hotel with me in the next room, and then they came back. So it was very gradual over quite a number of years. So, but I would say contact didn't really recover till probably their sort of late teenage years.
Wow.
So it was quite a long time.
Yeah, but it did come back to what people were telling you about that long game.
Yeah, no, it did, absolutely, and but there's always with Sophie. There's always she because she's with Asperger's. She likes routine. She likes to know where she's going. She likes that familiarity. So when she comes up, she just literally first thing you do is she puts her feet up on the sofa and she you know and that's when I know she feels comfortable. But when you go somewhere else, we went to Cheddar Gorge last year. It takes her a good day or so to relax, because little things like where she's showering, where does she change, what's her routine in the morning. Where she's at my house, she knows what they are, but when it's somewhere else, she gets a little bit unnerved. And Laura's always been around for her and done lots of stuff for her, but actually Sophie, when she's on her own, relaxes a little bit quicker. I think she's quite apprehensive sometimes when Laura's around, because she doesn't want to let Laura down. She loves Laura to bits, and Laura, you know, the same back. So there is some interesting dynamics going on, which I think with every family, you know, you've got 4 boys, you know, three your own and one you know, and there are so many dynamics going on in your family that you've got to be tuned into, and at the same time be trying to be as natural as you can when they're around, to stuff that they can enjoy. But
it's incredibly tough.
But maintain the discipline that you know you should, and that's the big thing. I think one of the really difficult things to try and grasp is the discipline side of when you have your children, to maintain the what's right and what's wrong, and not just let them go free rein because they don't see you that often. So
yeah.
really, really difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult, exactly as you described there, and also the thing of I definitely had a bit of a syndrome of, you know, I'm going to be super dad now. Like the boys are coming, and if they don't have a great time here, they might not want to come again, and that's my biggest fear. So let's all be, and you know, my partner now, rightly so, would be like, no, just what are you doing? Like you're even talking in a different voice. Like that's not you. Like this is all a bit like a bit strange.
As you get older, you recognise it in other people when they're doing it, and sometimes you can see yourself doing it, but most of the time you recognise other people doing it, and you can't. It's very difficult to then say, just chill out, you know, relax, because you know it's a very high tension sort of environment, and emotions running high. It's difficult to try and diffuse that sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, who do you speak to when life does go shit now? Who do you actually open up to?
I've got a few good close friends. To be fair, I've got my best friend who he's been through a shit time as well recently. So I've kind of helped him through it as well. So yeah, maybe I should the wrong job. I don't know, but so yeah, but he's good to talk to. I think the people I talk to are people who I know don't have any interest really, not vested interest in my life, but you know who are out of my immediate life that it's easy to talk to. So I mean, I work with my brother, so I don't tend to talk to him as much because you know it's just one of those things. You see him in work, and you don't sort of tend to cross over too much. And we do confide in each other, but Jules, my wife, you know, I probably don't open up enough to her, but that's because she's got a lot of shit going on as well at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's in the travel industry, so she's doing really well. So yeah, but she's always been there for me. She's been a rock, and I've got some good friends outside there who keep me very well grounded and keep me in check. But we never have enough friends, do we? That's the thing. We never have close people to us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's what's I found interesting is having those friendships where I thought were really good friendships, and they were, but we never really talked that openly. But kind of, I think I've spoken about it before. But doing this, I found that we've all started to speak a bit more openly. You know, it's good. You don't want it all the time. You don't want to just have a sour conversation about how shit life is all the time.
No, but I've spoken to people about the podcast, and they've tuned in. So they tell me anyway. And
they haven't, not by the figures.
Well, they probably haven't before one. So, but you know, it is so common, and you know, there's all this about, you know, the modern generation are far better at talking. I don't think they are. I just think that they're more used to a different style of talking. I don't think they're that much closer with it. It looks like I've got an orange 10.
Yeah, I think you were initially saying something about the start about being around kids and stuff. And Dalla, you've got your stepdaughter as well, haven't you? And it's amazing.
She's 17 now, just turned 17 in April. Yeah, so in that process of like looking at unis, applying what's actually going to happen next year. So yeah, their mum's a bit of an entrepreneur as well, so they're actually starting a little business at the moment as well. So they're keeping active and busy, and we use the space effectively. Do you know what I mean? She's a teenager, so most of the time's in her bedroom.
Yeah.
Missy's got the lounge during the day. I've got the conservatory during the day. So the breakdown is good, yeah. But it as you all know, gents, it takes a while to get there. It takes some work and some
Yeah.
patience and some understanding from both sides. But yeah, we got there.
How old
Any-
was
any-
she when you came into into her life?
When she was 10.
10. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So a good few years now. It doesn't feel like that, but yeah, they just
Did
happens.
it all go very smoothly?
Yeah, absolutely. She's a great kid. Like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I couldn't fault her. Couldn't fault her at all. Like, I think I've told her off about 3 times in her life. Do you know what I mean? Like, realistically, when I've heard some horror stories from like some of my mates who are, step parenting on either side, whether male or female, I'm a bit like, I don't know if I could have that capacity because I've got African DNA. I'll be like, where's built? It's built. Come here. um,
Yeah,
It's one thing telling your own kids off, but when they're not your kids, it's a trickier wicket for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No.
Do you find that
Right.
handy?
Yeah, it's very, very tricky. Yeah, yeah. I treat my stepson exactly like my son, and I always admired a guy from work who said that he had 4 daughters and he had 2 stepdaughters. But I twigged onto that from an early age, and I was like, I really admire the fact that he says he's got 4. And I really notice when people say, I've got a friend of mine who's got a stepson who he lives with all the time, and his son visits as well, and he says he's got 1, and that's I don't think anything necessarily bad about him or that situation, but I always thought about this one guy saying you've got 4 for me is the way forward, and I always say I've got 4, because I do. I treat him like my own, and the thing that I found.
Get used to explaining it because I do a bit of both. So occasionally I might go, "Oh, yeah, I'm stepdad," because I know the next question is, "Oh, she's 17. Oh, how old are you?" And people try to figure out where you might as well just be like, "Okay, this is the situation." Where I think, but in my head, she's my daughter. Do you know what I mean? If people do ask, are you a dad? I'd say, yeah. Do you know what I mean? More than anything, because that's the situation. That's the life we're in. It's a family household. It's not just me, my wife, and her kid. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
No, sorry. I was just saying, you were saying asking from a discipline and that kind of thing point of view, and definitely what I found is that I've put more discipline into my stepson kind of now than I used to, and I think it's a balancing act between what you put in. So if you're putting in a lot of love and you're treating him like your stepson, it's like your real son, for example, I think you can kind of, with communication with my missus, I can discipline in that way as well. Because he knows that there's the love and the affection and everything that goes with it. So therefore, there needs to be some discipline as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think probably, and I remember listening to something on Radio 5 about step parenting, and one of the things that they clashed on this kind of like psychological thing was, you don't put enough love in, but then you still, when my kids come around, you don't say hello, or you don't do this or whatever, and then you tell them off for eating the biscuits. It's like, I don't mind you telling them off for eating the biscuits, but you've got to do the normal nice things and all that kind of stuff as well. You've got to put the love in to be able to do that, or else it's unbalanced, because you are then just the evil step parent. But yeah,
absolutely. It's I think it's that unconditional side of it that it's very hard to. It's easy thing to say. It's very hard to actually do. I mean, my eldest daughter Laura, she didn't start. She only started calling me dad a few years ago. Again, and that was like first time she said it. I went, did she just say? And I asked this to Jules, did she just say? Yeah, she did. And like Jules' face lit up. Went, oh right. So I was like trying to play it cool, like like. So yeah.
what did that feel like? What with emotion?
It was great. I mean, you always want to or hope that they will grow up, and that you've not scarred them. Because that's my biggest worry is that what went on when they were younger may have scarred them or may scar them in the future in relationship building or things like that, and that's just you can't do anything about it. You just hope it hasn't been the case by talking to them at every opportunity about relationships and consequences and how to keep things balanced and again be real. Don't be somebody you're not. But I think when you're younger, that's now impossible. You always want to be somebody you're not. You always aspire to either somebody like you're a mentor at work or somebody who can, rip it up on the dance floor in a nightclub or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, I totally agree. We're all scarred, aren't we? There's a bit one of my favorite comedians, Louis C.K. does about, we don't want to scar our kids, but we scar our kids every second of the day parenting, because no parent is perfect. We make mistakes all the time, which are just little mini scars that they live with. But
I think the problem in society is having that impression that your parents are perfect, that the world is perfect out of people that are older than you. Do you know what I mean? And then when you start growing up as a teenager and a young adult, you start realizing actually, oh, this is why Uncle was moody, because he works 80 hours a week. Okay, I get it now. And do you know what I mean? It's growing up. It's growing pains. That's what they call it, don't they?
Yeah. But it's that realization that actually the world doesn't revolve around them. That life can get a bit complicated.
yeah. Well, I'm really pleased that you discovered that relationship with your daughters, and
It's
still
developing.
what? Sorry.
It's still developing. It's still, the interesting thing now is that we've not seen each other since, for about 7 months now, and that's but we're because we have these regular calls, and it's actually, I found it sometimes it's easier. I think we sort of have this sort of screen in front of us, and you can be a little bit more free with it. But yeah, she's talking about coming up in September, so that's a positive thing.
No, that's great. Yeah. I agree. I've got a relationship with my parents where it's not kind of close, but it is. Do you know what I mean? We're not lovey-dovey. We don't say I love you, any of that kind of stuff. But I've found the technology's kind of helped with that quite a bit. Like we send pictures now. Even my dad's bloody using a phone, and I make a few videos and that kind of stuff. And we always make sure we capture moments and cherish those moments and stuff. And I find that really helps. Yeah, the technology can help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm done. I mean, I look forward to having a beer with you in the future anyway, mate. But Dali, any final questions?
No, I just want to say thank you. I think you've opened up so well today, and I think there'll be a lot of our regular listeners, shall we call them, that will pick up and get some gems, because I think in terms of coping strategies, and I think sometimes it's in a weird way, it's better to hear from someone who's had some success in, whether it be sporting or whether professionally, to hear that, do you know what, it happens to everyone. It's not just those on benefits. It's not just those who are homeless or those that are really strung out. It actually happens to, middle class and above. And not putting that on you, mate, but do you know what I mean?
Whoa, hang on, we've got another hour now. Talk about
We see the glass artwork in the background.
I'll say upper working class then. But honestly, thank you so much for coming on.
Right, David. Cheers. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
See you later.
Bye now.
Hello.